Hey guys, it's Spence. Welcome, welcome. Sorry for the slow delayed start today. We have a really good crowd coming in, and I was getting a few things set up. Comcast is my nemesis. Actually, let me say hi to a few folks, and also thanks to Luke, who's helping me out here. He's in London. Today we are having our friends, I think, join us from Finland, the nice folks at Pilvia. This is an emergency session, an emergency webinar. I know we're heading into the holidays, and I said we got a lot of stuff that we're trying to get going, but I had to do this webinar about Pilvia because it represents to me more than just their product. It represents to me much more than just WordPress web hosting. It represents all of the things I've been talking about for, these many years, right? The idea of how to do things differently, to focus on just one niche, how to do something that solves a pain point, and it just so happens that aligns with our audience, you guys here. So I'm going to say hello. I've got a big monitor, and so let me put on my glasses here. I've got a big monitor, and I've got to cover a lot of territory. So I'm going to go ahead and just say I see in our audience we've got about 87 of you guys in here already. Jeremy is back. Welcome back, Jeremy. Edgar, Saroon, Sin, Max, Robin, Alex, Mike, Kathy, Alan. I see a lot of friends here, and I see a lot of folks that are new, and I want to welcome all of you who are new. We're going to have a very abbreviated talk here. We're going to go power through why I brought you here. But then I'm also going to give you a chance for some Q&A, and I want to get some feedback from you guys, especially since we're starting a new year with a different strategy at 1WDTV, focusing on the online software, online services, and that means that we've got in our polls, if you want to go visit there, a couple questions that you can answer at your convenience while I'm talking. And the list goes on. All right, you know what? In order to keep it rolling, since we're already 10:06, and let's just jump into it. I'm going to open up the screen share, and I want to start the presentation by giving a little background, because if you don't know me yet, I want to make sure that we're not completely in the dark. So let's get going. And I notice here too, I'm using a combination. I'm using Webinar Ninja. Some of you guys so rightly figured out I said it wrong. I said webinar something else in my email. Today I'm using Webinar Ninja, and I love the product. But basically, I've got two things going on. If I stumble and I fall, don't hold it against me for today, all right? So one of the things I've learned to do is I can switch to full screen and give you guys a little bit better shot at reading the slides if you're on a, let's say, a smaller browser. Also, hopefully by now you've figured out to work this in Chrome. And I'll scale that right. Perfect. Okay, so today, I want to focus exclusively on talking about Pilvia web hosting, because Pilvia is the company. I said it was Sweden. I made a mistake. It's Finland. And basically, they've got hosting solutions that are optimized for WordPress that allow you, for yourself or for a client, to do things with one click that otherwise would have taken many, many steps. Their pricing model is also something that I'm just super pumped about. If you don't know me, I am Spencer Foreman, and I do lead a double life. I am a single dad. I'm 50 years old this year. I've got 3 sons. I've built 4 companies, probably plus, and over 17,000 client relationships. And that means that I am in the business of meeting people, making people happy, solving pain, and it really excites me when I meet similarly minded companies. Now, one of my companies, 1WTV, is where you probably know me from originally. We've evolved that into this new product, this new 1W University, with a focus not on freelancing, but instead on the products that you can use online for any business purpose or business presence. And that's important. So you are in the right place if you are a business person, if you need to stay ahead, if you want to just learn how to use the latest online software. And I'll talk about this at the end of the presentation. But first, since you've been waiting, let's get going. Are you guys ready to rock? I am joined, by the way, I said it before, but I'm joined by Luke, who's going to help out with the questions. We've got this new questions tab, so feel free to go ahead and ask in the questions tab below the video, and then at some point during the Q&A, I'll be able to actually go through it. But if you have something really burning a hole in your pocket, Luke is here to help out. So let's rock. Pilvia web hosting. I'm going to do a live demonstration. I'm just going to go right to the web browser. But basically what makes this so different is the start to finish process. Now, you know, I've talked to you guys many times in the past about what to do when you want to get a WordPress site set up, because to my mind's eye, WordPress is now over 25%, they say, of the whole internet. And because of that, even if you're just using something to demonstrate, to a client or a prospect, WordPress is often your best solution. It's the best set of tools, like a picnic basket, to work from. In the past, I have shown you, in fact, we've had whole courses, how to do hosting on a reseller account so that you can just literally click and make new sites. We call them sandboxes for your clients. And then that allows you on a cost basis, maybe you're spending $20 to $25 a month for that reseller hosting. It allows you to have maybe each client's sandbox cost you anywhere from 50 cents to $1.25. And since you're learning a naming convention, which I also teach you here, that means that you don't even need to worry about making sites in advance for clients. You can set up a stack of sites and have them ready to go. Using a tool we used to do in the past called Quick Launch, that means you can clone your pre-made site ideas from things you've tested on other clients before to a new client and sell them. Now, what about for yourself? Well, many times you have an idea that's just burning a hole in your brain and you got to get it out of you. Now you can do the same thing with Pilvia, as I'll show you in a second. You don't even need to have a reseller server. You could just do on a site-by-site basis any idea that comes to mind, any client that comes to mind. You can literally do anything you want to do as simple as a few clicks. And the benefit to you is that they don't ask you to pay up front. So if the idea lasts through the weekend or lasts through the week and you know it's really going to go, and if you then go ahead and buy yourself a domain, you can now attach the domain to a Pilvia account, flip that switch, pay the $7.30 a month US, and get cloud-based hosting through Google, really fast and optimized. They're using Nginx as the underlying technology, so it's not even old-fashioned Apache or even a hybrid of Apache. It's Nginx. I'm pretty sure they're using optimization strategies and CDNs like caching and varnish and so forth. And more importantly, SSL is included. So all that hassle of having to go out and get a certificate in order to do something that all of us want to do. I have a site, I have a business idea, I need to sell stuff with e-commerce. I have a membership site and I have to take credit cards. I want to be able to be paid for my invoices. All of those things are super easy to do using WordPress as the framework, but they're super annoying to set up when you have to go ahead and go to Komodo or go to Namecheap, get a separate certificate, copy and paste it, and so on. Now, many of you remember that I've talked for now over a year saying the day will come, and it is coming this year, where it will be de facto standard that everybody who is in the hosting business will just offer SSL, because all sites should be and will be SSL literally by default. Google has already made it clear, and lay people understand that there's no way you're going to have a website in the future that isn't SSL. Otherwise, they're going to penalize you. They're already penalizing you. But just the process, I mean, come on. Going to a cPanel, setting up a site, then having to click the SSL certificate button, getting the, my certificate, sending it to an agency. Oh, horrible. There's companies that are doing stuff now called like Easy SSL, which I think probably the underlying engine, to make it possible for progressive web hosts like Pilvia to just eliminate this whole process. So when you start up a site, you just get it. So let's jump in. I want to show you live screen now because I'm talking and talking and talking. Let's jump to the live screen. I'm going to go over here and grab the web browser, and let's go to Pilvia Live itself. So we're going to go to pilvia.com. I was only half joking. I use this as a mnemonic. I just think Sylvia. I don't know. Maybe the guys from Pilvia, I think, are here. They might comment. I don't know what Pilvia means. If it has meaning, maybe it's a girl's name or something. But it's easy to spell, easy to say, and it's simple to get started. All you need is a Google Apps or a Google Mail login. That's what we need. So it doesn't require anything complicated, and I think that's the best benefit of this, is they've accepted and made it, who doesn't have a Google account, right? They made it ubiquitous, or everybody in the world has it. So all you need to do is click here, and if you're not otherwise logged in, you will, just to make sure you're clear, you will use your sign in with Google, right? So if I wanted to change the account, I could choose from any of my numerous accounts. Here I'm already signed in, so I just click, and now I've got basically my site manager. And this is incredibly powerful too, because just like when we're using other tools we raved about like Manage WP, I can create multiple sites and they can all be here. Starting a site is simple, but I want you guys to understand, like I showed in my follow-up video, we've got a mini course we put together on this, that you should probably consider going to the billing area first. And here's why. When the time comes that you maybe want to flip the site live and attach to it a domain, they're going to need this anyway. But until that time, you do not need to pay. You absolutely do not need to do so. So I'm not going to go into detail here, but just know that it's probably worthwhile getting your credit card in there first, just to avoid you having to do it at an inopportune moment later. And I guarantee you, you're going to want to host your stuff here. We've tested it, and I'm going to show you an example of it on Pingdom Tools. And although they confirm for me that their servers are mostly the cloud-based in Belgium, they are getting some cloud-based stuff in the US soon. And even with it being in Belgium, it tests out as faster than my MDD hosting, than my Bluehost hosting, testing out faster than most of my US-based hosting. So I think that being in the cloud and being optimized makes this a great choice, even if you're wondering where is the server located. Okay, the meat and potatoes. That's right here on the Sites tab. And to get started is this easy. We click on New. Now, those of you who remember from my old days, but I'm going to make it easy for those of you who are new here as well, I have a naming convention that I use here that makes this super simple for you to use this to its maximum effect. Instead of attaching the name of what I'm really building, like Spence'sDogs.com or .demo site, I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to use a naming convention that has a prefix and 4 numbers as a suffix. So for example, I had a company Lab. I'm going to use that as a prefix for all of my sites. And then I have 4 digits. So Lab 0000, 0001, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I learned this from my law days because when I practiced law, oh, there they are. There's Sammy. Hi, Sammy. You're live on the webinar now. Hope you'll come and join us. This is on screen now. Okay. So now, if I have a naming convention like this, I learned in my law days, this gives me a lot of power because if I come up and have a great year and I have 212 new clients, I know exactly where I'm at sequentially. But here's the real trick. This number becomes the associated account number for anything I do, whether it's for me or for a paid client. By using this account number, I now have the ability to say, I can use this for the email prefix. I can assign this to Bob today, and if Bob is no longer paying, I can assign it to Susie or John or anybody else. I can reuse this. So in other words, naming it this way gives me full flexibility. And then I just create a simple Google spreadsheet to track it of all of my domains and if they're available to be reused. It's like a recycling program. And it's also an easy to use admin name because not that many people would be able to guess that on their own. The other thing I love about what they've done here is that by default, and again, those of you who know from my past courses on reseller hosting know, I said that whenever you're doing reseller hosting, create a parent domain. In my case, it's Lab Client. Well, they've already done a name here that is perfect because it's so agnostic to the world. Anything you want, .demo site. That will work in Europe, that will work in America, that will work whether you're in a dog business or you're doing some online sales. So anything you create, .demo site is actually incredibly functional. Many of you may decide just to use that for getting your business started and only later decide that, I'm going to pony up to $7. I think that'd be silly, of course, because it's only $7, but you get my meaning. Now, the next option here for a new site, and let's make this one easy. We're going to do Lab, we'll just call it Lab 1000. There's an option. I'm not really sure whether you would have any reason not to install WordPress. I suppose it's possible because you do have a database and so forth. But I'm just going to install WordPress right off the bat because that's the whole point of this. It's one-click easy. So I've got lab1000.demo site. That's going to be my working maintenance subdomain. And I'm going to click Create. And you'll see, it's like literally this quick. I decide on an email, and it uses my Google email by default. I can then use an admin name that they provided, which is actually a good way to do it. They've avoided using WordPress's default admin because that would be a security breach. But again, by having your account prefix -admin, it's super easy to remember right out of the bat. You can, of course, change either of these values. Password, I'm going to use a password I'm familiar with, but I have a suggestion for you guys. Okay, and here's the suggestion. When I do passwords, I break this up into 4 components, and then I use that pattern again and again. So even though each password for each site is unique, it has certain components that I have a mnemonic for. So for example, let's say there were 4 components, and a character or characters at the beginning, then I would have the number, for example, then I would have a unique word, and then I would have maybe another number at the end, something unique. So the way that I do that is, let's say I'll type it out here. If I had unique character, unique character. So if I had unique character like ampersand, I don't know, hashtag, then I could have, for example, the number, lab 1000. Then I could have a unique word like, you know, coffee, you know, yum, and then another symbol or same symbols. It doesn't matter. Let's say I do $ this. Okay. What I'm saying is, to make a unique password that's easy to work with, if you have the symbols at the beginning and the end being the same, and if you use the same keyword, the only variable really is this. And that's something that can be very powerful because it's unlikely that somebody's going to figure out your pattern. I mean, no offense, you're just not that important to hackers. They're not going to sit there and brute force your particular pattern. So this allows me to avoid using something like LastPass. Joey's asking a question. LastPass or OnePass for passwords. I can't comment and say those are not good, but I'm going to tell you something. I use this system because this goes with me in my brain and it never is forgotten. And I've got to tell you the truth. I've seen people who use LastPass or OnePass, and the ironic thing is they either forget how to log in, they don't have the tools set up to log in, they can't get to their passwords, and then they're completely hosed. So again, I'm not going to argue on here for passwords, but do whatever works for you. For me, I'm going to use a password that allows me to have multiple client sites like Lab 1000, 1001, 1002, 1003, and I always know the password. Okay. Kevin has an opinion. He says, it's interesting. I see enough IDS attacks with no one cares about me site. I'm not saying they don't care about you and getting to your site. I'm saying very unlikely with a password as long and complicated as I just suggested you can remember that somebody's going to brute force you. That's what my point is. If you feel that you have a security breach because you're a very important person, and that might be true, absolutely. But there's just very few people that are going to brute force a 16-digit hexadecimal, you know, strange character password on you that's unique for each of your sites. Your mileage may vary. Okay, let's get going. So as soon as I click the button, you'll notice I could count to like 7 or 10. That's about how long it takes, literally under 10 seconds, and the site is created. Depends on, you know, their level of busyness. I have not seen it take this long before, but even then, that was probably about 11 seconds. Now my site is set up. Now if we click in here, we can see the meat and potatoes. So let's cover the features. First of all, domains. We have the working domain that we talked about. You want to know what's beautiful about this? This site is up and running, baby. It's not just a demo site like, hey, let's do something. It's there. It's ready to use. But right off the bat, we have a choice. We can continue using the working domain. And if we want, we can set up the pointing. Now, the pointing is as simple as I've shown you before, but you would go to your DNS host, take whatever the domain is. Let's say I had, you know, spencesdogs.com, and I save it. Now, what it's going to do is give you a warning up front that says this is still pending. But go to your name server and use the IP address of 104.155.2270. You would copy this IP address, go to your domain host like GoDaddy, and simply create a new A record in your DNS hosting for that domain and point the A record to this IP address. If you're using GoDaddy or Google domains, typically this will propagate literally in a matter of minutes, maybe an hour. If you're using some janky third-party DNS host, we still have to talk. But if you are, it might take a little longer. Either way, you can still access your site through the working domain, and then later you'll get this actually functioning, in which case then you can use another tool, which I'll talk about, to replace the URLs and make the domain name you've added as the working domain name. We'll cover that in a minute. If you don't like what you did, you can always delete it and resave, and you'll never lose the working domain. I love this so much because I was talking about this kind of process that I had developed myself from researching and reading years ago. I've been doing this since 2006, and I love the fact that they have the same sensibility, which is probably why this product and this hosting company gets me really, really interested in promoting. Now, SFTP is basically file transfer protocol that's secure. The S stands for secure. And that's a good way to go, because today, if you do have some security concerns, this is one way to, minimize, not remove, any chance that somebody's going to get into that chain between you and the server. The only difference you have to do is just remember to select SFTP from the client you use. And if you're unsure what client to use, just go into Google and type in FTP client, and you will see literally hundreds of them. If you're on Mac, it's probably something like Transmit. I use Transmit. If you're on Windows, you're probably going to use something like FileZilla. But whichever one you use, make sure that you choose the secure file transfer protocol and then use the credentials here. Now, the eyeball will reveal the password so you can copy it. I'm not going to do that right now because I'm concerned of the security. No, just because it'd be impractical. But when you click on this eyeball, it shows the password, so you have everything you need to set up your client for SFTP. MySQL Server. This is a neat trick, and I love this because they were thoughtful enough to avoid my having to go out and use a third-party database tool, which, to be frank, is a pain in the tush. That's a technical term, meaning it's one less thing that I have to worry about. I had done this in the past, and that was one of the reasons that I always stuck with cPanel, was just for the PHP MyAdmin. So they've given me credentials that I can still use in a third-party database client, but I don't need to, because if I click this, it just opens up an instance ready to log in of PHP MyAdmin, just like I would normally get through cPanel. So that means that I can just literally start manipulating any things in the database I need to. To be honest, WordPress very rarely requires you to go into the database, but on the occasions that you need it, not having this access or having to learn how to use a shell would be a nightmare. So the fact that that's included and prevents me from having to use a third-party service, greatly appreciate it. Now finally, the meat and potatoes, the WordPress stuff. Managing plugins. Have you ever had the instance where a plugin goes bad, you don't know why, you can't get to it, what am I going to do? Well, in the past, we'd had you go into the file manager through cPanel to get to it, because it is possible maybe to do it through FTP, but you just don't have as much obvious notice, is this working or not? They've come up with a clever solution. Check this out. It's just the plugins. So if you find that Hello Dolly is at fault, or Hello Dolly needs to be turned on, you can turn on and off any of the plugins in your installation, and you don't have to go through the full dashboard, like might be the case. What if you had white screen of death and you just couldn't get to the dashboard, or something of that nature? Or you're just testing, for doing speed tests or otherwise. This gives you access to any plugins. You can activate and deactivate them on demand right from your own site dashboard. Remember I talked about replacing the URLs. So let's say we've gone ahead and we've created a new domain, Spence's Dogs, and we've set up the site and it's working. Now, we all know that, and I'll show you again how it works. In WordPress, I can set that new domain as the active domain. But when that happens, I want to do a find and replace to get rid of any instances of the lab1000.demo site. And that way I can ensure that there's no chance that somebody's going to maybe have a question of, what is this thing, or where is this coming from? It'll all match up with my working domain. So I just use this find and replace tool. Super simple. I just type in the domain that I'm using. If I did Spence's Dogs, and I can do a test search, it will look to see, in this case, there should be 0. Oh, that's funny. I'm not sure where that is, but oh, I see. It's looking for the instances of this, and then I can decide to change it with that. Sorry, had a little brain fart. So there's 5 instances where lab1000.demo site is used. This will replace them automatically in the database. So if I click this button, it would do that. I'm not going to do it because I don't want to make anything break. Make sure that you only do this after you've already set up a new domain, because otherwise you're going to have a DNS issue. It won't be able to find the site anymore. Now let's talk about the WP admin, and then we're going to do the cloning site part. WP admin literally just launches you right into the dashboard, or if you're not logged in, into the login. So here we've got lab 1000-admin, and then my password. Boom, I'm in. And if I save it, it just always keeps it open when I want to click on the button. So super easy. This allows me everything that I can tell that a normal WordPress site can do. So Sammy's here, he can correct me, but there are other cloud-based hosting and managed WordPress hosting sites that put these arbitrary limits. And I know why they do them, because I was there when when they started the company. I was one of the people that was really excited about them. I'll use one as an example, like WP Engine. Okay, when Jason Cohn started it, I was a company called Lab Secrets, and I was very excited at the time of what he was doing. But they came up with a business model that has a limit for 29 bucks. You pay 29 bucks, and maybe you get some other stuff, but they limit what you can put on your site. There's certain plugins that you cannot use, for example, at WP Engine. And that's, to me, okay, I understand their motive, but that's kind of nuts. That limits my flexibility. That makes me think, huh, you know what? I probably would rather use A2 hosting or something instead of being limited. I don't believe these guys are limiting what you can use here, which is terrific. Secondly, is that when you come on over to the payment plan, when you decide to use, let's say, your own domain and you pay the $7.30 a month, there's no limits on how many hits till you go up to the next price plan. Let me just show you something. I'm not trying to pick on them, but just this is a different business model, which I love, that Pilvia is doing. So if we go over here to WP Engine, go on their pricing. And by the way, they were much more expensive. They've had to adapt to the market as well, and I'm sure that that's going to continue to evolve. But check this out. I mean, they're going for the type of people that probably have a more advanced business. But on a personal, you're starting at $29 a month, and you've got only 25,000 visits per month, 10 gigs of local storage, until you bump up to $99. Now listen, I understand if you've got an established business, that's great. But if you're at our level where you're implementing new ideas, maybe you have new clients, you're testing things out, you don't really have a good option here where, you know, $29 a month is a significant investment for one website. And then to be able to like go over 25,000, that's your goal. So it seems to me that, I mean, they've figured it out. They're very popular, of course. And Jason Cohn is the smartest guy I know, literally. But this is a real trauma to me to think like, well, I got to spend 30 bucks a month on an idea per site, and then if I succeed, I got to be bumping up to 100 a month. I may have lots more than 25,000 visitors a month without having enough revenue yet on the idea to pay for $99 a month. So give some consideration to that, because to me that was a very, very welcoming surprise about how this is all set up for pricing as well. And I think something that's going to lead to their great success. Finally, cloning the site. And by the way, there's some good questions in here, and I love this, about HostGator, Bluehost, reseller hosting. I'm going to address that in a second. I want to talk right to you guys about that. In fact, you know, let me just do that now before I come to the cloning part. So let's talk reseller hosting, single site hosting on traditional servers versus Pilvia. If you are doing something for yourself that is one site, and just know it's one site, a million different places you can go. HostGator, Bluehost, yada, yada, yada. For $3.95, you can get a single site. In fact, with us, with our link to 1WTV/hosting, you can go through our affiliate, get a discount on A2 hosting, and I think it was $4 and change. And we will set up for you the site for free with our software thing. You know, that was the deal that we had made in the past if you bought our box. Because that's what the old world is. The old world is all of these hosting companies are using the same hardware, the same software, and they're just basically racing to the bottom because they're all using this old dashboard that to me reminds me of like in the old days when I had a computer with a green screen and Windows was just far off in the future. I'd put my disk in and I'd load up the DOS and I'd, you know, wait for the dots, and then I would go, you know, CD, you know, change directory. I was typing literally in DOS commands. Windows changed all that. Well, think about that for hosting. Why do you need to have a cPanel to load a site? You don't. But all these hosting companies are competing with the same sets of tools and features. So they have these ridiculous sites with all these words on it that basically say it's $3 or $4. What's the real differentiator? In my mind, the differentiator is A, how well do they work and how fast they are? B, did I do A? B, who is it that's running the company? Is it an enthusiastic team of individuals that are going to jump on helping you immediately? Check out Pilvia. Like those guys are in Finland, which makes it great because when I'm working at night, they're in their morning. And if I have any problems, they were just like, boom, on it. 3. No, I'm just kidding. C. If you want to make it easy to launch new ideas, you can do that here without paying for anything, without setting up anything, without talking to anybody, without creating new credentials, without getting an email login, without going through a registration process. You just take your Google Apps name or email, click the button, and start making sites. And they're fully functional WordPress sites that are fast as hell and work perfectly. Only if and when you decide that, aha, this business is working, or you know what, I want to own this baby with my domain, do you add your domain and call it a day. But even then, you've got all the benefits and simplicity of these tools in one dashboard. And none of the distractions, like the Apollo lunar lander of controls that you see inside of cPanel to go like, oh, what do I do? None of the hassles of SSL. No worries about taking a certificate, sending it out, hoping it comes back right, pasting it in. Not even dealing with the, third-party free services. And then finally, it's just the notion that this is all the latest tools. This is the way stuff is going to be done. So your wagon wheel, your steam engine of cPanel is great for everybody who did it before. But we're in a different world, right? Like, I use my smartphone as a replacement for a whole desktop. I don't carry around one of those TRS-80 portable computers anymore and open it up like tonk. It's crazy. I just have a phone. This is the way hosting is going to be done for as long as hosting is necessary. Don't get me started. That's a whole other conversation. But as time goes on, we're seeing how things are evolving. Be progressive. One last comment. Luke and I had a debate about what would still be the reason to use A2 hosting. And there is still a reason. And here's what it is. There's two reasons. This would apply to Bluehost or HostGator or any of those as well. The reason that you could still want to use reseller hosting would be, if you do the math, Pilvia with a real domain and no email involved is $7 and change a month, $7.30. If you go and use our reseller link for A2 hosting, it's about $20 right now a month for 40 sites. So if you were doing a bunch of client work or a bunch of ideas yourself and you didn't mind the extra clunkiness of cPanel, the cost is going to be still significantly less, right? I mean, you're going to get 40 sites for $20. That's going to be 50 cents a site. And so you're comparing 50 cents against $7. That could still be a real powerful reason to use it. To me, it's a tough trade-off, though, because I may still just have the reseller as my breeding ground. And then as soon as something, sprouts up out of the ground, whoop, I'm going to take it out, put it in a bigger pot over at Pilvia, right? So that it can really grow and gets the proper attention that it needs. So I'm thinking, use your reseller account, hopefully our discount one, set up on A2 reseller, have 40 sites for yourself, your clients, your new ideas. As soon as something sprouts up that's interesting, move it over. But you know what? In the meantime, you can still breed your ideas here for free. But it's just at the time when you want to apply a real domain, there's still obviously a cost that is hard to compete. 40 on a reseller for $20. The second reason, I think this is a red herring, but for many of you or your clients, it might still apply. We're teaching you this year how to really take advantage of Google Apps, and especially Google Apps email. That for $5 per person or $50 a month lets you do a full domain-based set of tools. And the domain-based email is really powerful. So having anything at spencerforeman.com, anything at 1wdtv.com is hugely powerful. There are those people who are still old school. I don't mind, Spence, using Gmail. I don't mind Bob1234 at Gmail. That's fine. Okay, great. Maybe you have a client like that. I want to use Squirrel Mail still. I love having PHP email on my server because it's just so fun to empty that spam box every 10 days and find out how many people really didn't get captured when they, bothered my client. If you have a client that still wants PHP mail, or if you have a client that just is unwilling to give the $5 to have you set up, Google Apps email for them, there may not be a motivation to do so, but otherwise, those are the people that would still benefit from using a standard server, right? Because you can do PHP email and so forth. Truth be told, I haven't tested it yet, but I know it's going to work. I've been using a plugin on WordPress called SMTP Postman, and that allows you to authenticate through Google's regular Gmail SMTP servers for outgoing transactional email, which means that even without a Google Apps email, I could use Pilvia, and I could connect through Google Mail, the regular Gmail, Gmail, for any outbound transactions at no cost. So I don't need to use Mandrill. I don't need to use any custom PHP SMTP setting on my server. I can just let everything go through the cloud, through Google. So those are the two ideas. I don't really have a definitive answer, but I would say for 99% of the people, get both. Spend 20 bucks here and spend as you need and test for free on Pilvia, and then you get, like, you know, Reese's peanut butter cups, peanut butter and chocolate, delicious. Okay, let's talk now. I know I'm talking fast, don't worry. We're gonna have lots of Q&A, I'm sure. Let's talk about the cloning feature. So I'm a raving fan and still am of Managed WP. Of course, they were purchased by GoDaddy recently, and I wish Vlada and his whole team really well there, but we're all crossing our fingers and nothing breaks. In the meantime, this cloning site feature is as powerful as you need for 99% of what you'd use it for anyway. So here's the sample. You've got a site you've set up and made absolutely cool as heck, right? My Lab 1000 is a template site that I've set up some kind of a client or a business idea that I know I want to franchise myself, or I want to have clients buy from me ready to go. We call this quick launch, and we've done it, you know, 1WDTV, you know, we've got the, you know, yogaclub.me. This is, for example, one of our quick launch templates that was in our product from before. It's ready to go. It's got lots of things set up. And so if I wanted to make a new client site from this, I don't have to start from scratch with creating the template mods or creating the functions or creating the plugins or setting up the plugins. It's just ready to go. And same here. If I've created something that I know would be a great franchise model for myself or for other clients to buy from me, I just want to be able to clone it so that I can change a couple key things, save a ton of time, and yet be paid 100% of the full value of the result. Because remember, if it's my business and I have one Dunkin' Donuts, it's easier for me to copy that and have 2 or 3 or 10 or 12 Dunkin' Donuts, even if they're in different locations, than it is for me to come up with the idea of Dunkin' Donuts as a business to start with. And likewise, if I build something for clients that I think is a great service or product, I can just clone that in a couple seconds and not have to invent or set up from scratch an entire business on a WordPress site. It just saves a ton of time. So here's how the cloning feature works. We go over here to, let's say, this one, and we say clone site, and we just say, what's the name of the new site? Well, let's try it, Lab 1000 clone, just to make it simple. So I'm going to take 1000, I'm going to make a copy of it. Watch how fast this is. I click 1000, 1000, up 2 seconds. Whew, that was a long wait. And here we go. Now when I click on this and I open it up, freaking you out, right? Just freaking you out how fast that was. That was so fun. I have to do that again. I'm going to actually clone the clone. I'm going to be like a clone trooper here. Okay, Lab 1000, clone V2. 1, 1000, 2, 1000, 3, 1. Oh, darn it. 2.5 seconds. Okay? But remember, like your mom said, always clean up after yourself. So if you're not using these, just delete the sites. Okay? You got to click in here and type in the dead man switch so that you don't delete something accidentally. Type in ABC. Done. Right? Let's get rid of this. Delete. ABC. Done. I've never really had as much fun clicking buttons as I do with this dashboard. I know that sounds silly, and I'm an adult man, I'm 50 years old, but there's something childlike simple about this. And I have a feeling one of the other reasons I love this so much is it reminds me, in some weird ways, of the styling of our Lab Pages modules or something like that. But the point is, I just love this whole setup and how clean and simple it is to work with, and I can't say enough about it. All right, so that's 99% of it. I mean, there's literally nothing else you can say that requires much explanation other than if we wanted to do so, we can go into the dashboard and install any plugin, do anything normally. I don't have to belabor this point, but I'm fairly sure that you can even install Managed WP. There's no reason you can't because this is regular hosting, right? This is nothing different. Once it's set up, there's no restrictions. It's not doing some weird stuff like GoDaddy servers are doing where they have their custom cPanel. Just click. install, activate, and then I would do what I need to do. Okay. All right, let's have a little Q&A. Let's take the pace down a little bit, right? You guys, would you guys like that? All right. All right, settle down, settle down. Okay, we have a very active audience. I'm going to look over here to the questions. Luke's going to help me out if there's one that's really burning the hole, but I'm looking in just order that they were typed. I'm pretty sure this is the order they were typed. So, I don't. Okay, so starting from the oldest one, Muhana. Oh man, I'm going to say this. Muhana. I hope I said that correctly. Has a question of how to FTP themes to their site using FileZilla. Well, that's an odd question. The simplest thing I could say is you just use an FTP client and then you take the file that you've got for a theme and you'll typically want to unzip it first on your desktop. So when you're using FTP, I've never found a client that lets me have full control over zipping and unzipping. So what I do is I take the zip file on my desktop, unzip it, and then I copy that file directly through FTP to the destination, and I put it into the WordPress special directory. So this is WP content themes. Okay, so you open up on the destination server, WP content themes folder, drag from your desktop the theme that's unzipped, and it's just going to be the name of the theme, right? It'll be the responsive or whatever. Drag the whole thing, wait till it uploads. Then when you go back to WordPress, in your dashboard, click under Appearance Themes, and you should see it there, ready to be activated. Tim asks, oh, I'm sorry, the Night Owl Productions. I can't read the whole name. I like the avatar. The Night Owl Productions asks, is this like the web hosting company, free hosting? Yes and no. Last night I did some research in preparation for this webinar, and here's what I'm going to tell you. There have been a lot of companies coming out with this idea in various forums. So I haven't looked at that one. I will look at that one again, or to begin with. But what I noticed last night is that many of these companies are using the same old mechanism. It's still a cPanel. It's still some kind of legacy stuff. They're just making it automated. And what I think is really different here is that these guys aren't necessarily literally reinventing the wheel from scratch. They're just coming out with like a tubeless tire, right? It's just an advanced, like the electric car sort of for hosting. They're just taking what's been traditionally done and they're just leaving it all behind except for the basics of 4 seats and a windshield. And they're going to the next level. So what I like most about this is that they're not using cPanel and they're still keeping the parts that I like from cPanel, like PHPMyAdmin, but their pricing model is brilliant. The speed and the Google hosting, everything else about that is brilliant. Their service is brilliant. So I suppose, yeah, there'll be lots of companies that are going to be competing for space in this type of realm, just like there is now. I mean, that's why the race to the bottom between Bluehost and HostGator means they can, give you $3 websites. It's because you come up with your own flavor of inventing the wheel. So thank you for the suggestion. I will check that out, though. Next, Tim asks, what time is the webinar on the East Coast? Well, you've already missed it if you're not here, but I think you're already here. Oh, Lucas helped out. Okay. Next, how to FTP themes to their site using FileZilla. We covered that. Sander asks, hi, Sander, how to make a good YouTube movie and get traffic to a site. That is not the topic of today's webinar. I absolutely invite you to use our new method. At 1WDTV, click on Contact or just use the little icon, and we will help you offline. We have a personal service for that kind of stuff now, which we're really excited because a lot of people are using, but it's no longer the way we're doing our webinars here. We're going to stay on this topic. But thank you for that question, and we're happy to help you offline. Robin asks, free SSL best practices. Well, there is a free SSL service. I can mention it in the context of today. Komodo. If you go to komodo.com, they have an offer of a free SSL that does not require your existing host to be participating. I'm using it right now for several of our yoga clients, and the reason I like it is because it means that I can get them set up today for taking real credit cards. It's 3 months for free, and then they bug you about renewing it. And then if you want to renew it for free, that's fine, but you got to start the whole process over. It took me about 15 to 20 minutes for the whole process to set it up. Not the hardest thing in the world, but definitely annoying. So in the future, no soup for them. In the future, anytime I have a client that's going to be using credit card, guess which company I'm going to use? It sounds like Pilvia. Okay? No questions asked. That's the number one thing that, to me, this is really awesome about, is like, all the other stuff is great, but this is the icing on the cake. Malcolm asks, so Luke has already answered. These webinars, by the way, are going to be available perpetually. You are going to have to maybe register or click the link to get back in if you're already registered. We want you to join 1WD, of course. Let me ask you, I'm going to come back to a couple more questions. I want to talk about that for a second. So let me do something else here. I want to go back to my slides. Okay, because I want to talk about why we're here and what we're doing in general, right? And this is an important topic to me because I don't know how I got all the way to the beginning of my slides, but okay. This is an important topic to me because it's a pain point that we had this summer. Those of you who know me from before know I've been online teaching people how to do stuff since 2006, but 1WD TV had a very different sort of spin to it. So let me tell you a quick story about solving pain, like Pilvia solving pain, unbelievable pain for me and other people, I think, including yourself. So let me show you, for example, this story. There was a guy named Emmanuel Haldeman Julius and his wife Marcette, and they set out back in the 1920s to publish these small, low-price paperback pocketbooks. And they were intended to basically help working class people as well as the educated class. And their goal was to get literature, fine works of literature, with a wide range of ideas and common sense knowledge into the hands of as many people as possible. And so they called them these little blue books because Haldeman Julius was one day reading this book out on a park bench, and he was so captivated by reading this novel condensed into short form that he just sat there for hours until his hands were blue. And so he then called them blue books. And you know how many of those they sold in the life of the company? 500 million copies from the 20s to the 70s, because this answered a need. There were so many people that just wanted the condensed version of what was important to them, literature or fine works of art or things that were useful to their daily life, that they couldn't schlep around a gigantic book to read. Same thing in the 70s. When I was a kid, I used the Cliff's Notes. I used them through high school into college. They were condensed versions of all the popular topics, textbooks, also some literature for students. And so the idea was that this guide, which started in 1958, became ubiquitous. Everybody had it, because now as a kid or as a college student, you could get that report done, or you could finish the course, or get the information just the way you wanted it quickly. So let me ask a question to all you guys, right? Do you feel that you wish you had less time in the day? I mean, are you just so bored with your days of wondering what to do with yourself, wandering around the house, that you wish you had less time? Because in my mind's eye, I'd like to come live in your world, right? For most of us, including me, we don't have enough time to sit down and learn and study all the things that we need to know or want to know to be informed and competitive. And so we basically have a problem, right? We're running around kind of like this picture, running around constantly trying to fit in just enough time in order to get the things we need done in our overpacked day. It's obvious to me from the success of Little Blue Books and the Cliff's Notes that people can get most of the enjoyment and the information out of long-form content if it's presented in an abbreviated format. So we asked ourselves, why isn't this been done for online software? Because really, it's hard to keep up. I mean, we're living right now in a world, like I'm just so excited telling you about it, where you can start a dropship business delivering, I don't know, rare quail eggs to people from your laptop while you're in Malaysia. But yet, at the same time, you oftentimes don't know what software to use for that or how to use it effectively. I mean, there's 6 different email programs and the CRMs and the e-commerce, and which one to use and why. So in order to know which online software to use or which is a good fit for your business, you first have to go, you got to set up an account, maybe give your credit card, then you got to dive in trying to learn enough about it and test it out, and all the things that lead to the questions that we've got here today. And the bigger problem is there's great companies around the world. I mean, Pilvia is in Finland. Software authors and vendors want you to use their product, but we all know that the documentation is often the last thing ever completed. That happened to us here at 1WDTV. We were just apologizing constantly that we were building new stuff and couldn't keep up with our documentation, or couldn't worry about doing the things that made it easier for people like you to discover it. And so you have a real need for a particular solution when you're running a business or starting a company or even helping a client. But sometimes the documentation just isn't there. Sometimes the documentation is too technical, or sometimes the documentation, quite honestly, has somebody talking in an accent that is hard to follow. I mean, they're doing their best, but they have a very strong accent that's not American-based, and it's just hard to follow. So what are you supposed to do? Well, that's the whole point. What we're doing here now at 1WD University is solving our own pain, but we think that that's the universal thing that our 17,000 plus students have been wanting anyway. Let me tell you a story. In the process this summer, we were trying to create these email funnels and campaigns, and there was an endless variety of email products, but two of them came to mind. They were Drip and ConvertKit. Drip is started by Rob Walling, and ConvertKit by Nathan Barry, and both of them are very popular in the WordPress space, and they both do various types of email marketing and automation. But what happened was the documentation on Drip just wasn't really fully done, even though they just got bought by Lead Pages. And it really truly is a different type of a product than ConvertKit. ConvertKit, we're going to cover both these, by the way, in our own courses, but ConvertKit is for bloggers or people doing straightforward businesses, and Drip is for somebody who wants to do real, I'd say, more high-end email automation. But the fact is that Luke and I, all summer long, we're struggling how to set it up, which one to choose, how to make the funnels, why we should do this funnel, what feature is this, and so on. And the problem we faced was, which is better? Just which should I use here? Because we could have saved a ton of time and frustration of trying Drip first if we had just known that the ConvertKit features were more in line with what we wanted to use. And by actually seeing somebody using that stuff, literally on screen, it would have given us a little satisfaction as well of like, aha, I'm peeking in like a little peeping Tom of what it really looks like without having to go to all the trouble of giving Drip our credit card and all the rest of the stuff, right? Because that's frustrating as it is. Not only just have to set up your credentials and then get a confirmation email and then have to give them your credit card, but then you got to worry about canceling the credit card. And, you know, all the stuff I just talked about today with Pilvia, why they do it so awesome is that just give your Google Apps connection or your Gmail connection. Don't bother with the credit card up front. Done and done. They're easy. But most companies that have real high-end features as well, like Drip, you know, I'm giving out credit cards and logging in and logging out, and don't even get me started. Okay. By the way, I'm turning on something here. I don't know why it wasn't in there before. There's a couple extra buttons in there. You'll have to ignore the buttons, but I just turned on the offers. There's a link at the top, an orange button under the offers tab to Pilvia. And then at the bottom is a link for 1WD University. Because that's basically what we did. We solved our own itch. So we have a problem, had a problem that said you most of the time want to see something before you buy it, right? You need to know what's under the cover. And oftentimes the vendors, the people who create the software, just don't have the time or inclination to give you all that insider information right when you need it, because it takes a lot of effort to get to that stage. So what we decided to do is take this idea. After experimenting and experiencing a whole summer of you know, discovering, developing, deploying different ideas for our freelance clients, we figured, you know what, the one common thread here is that nobody is offering curated online software courses that show us the best features or how to use them step by step. And in a nutshell, we wanted to make 1WD University a place where anybody can find step-by-step video training on how to use the best features of the latest online software in the shortest time possible. Now, that includes the same kind of stuff we're talking about today, but really it boils down to a new, really detailed course every week. We released our first of 52 courses already on schedule, and that was their Advanced Custom Fields course. Luke will put the URL in there for you. It's under the Courses tab. We've also, by the way, included a list of all the courses that we've got, and I've got a poll for you guys to use here in the webinar to tell us which of those 5 or 6 you think would be most beneficial to get out before the others. We're doing live weekly webinars. And although we don't have it today because this Pilvia is completely free, most of the time with a paid online software, we're going to be offering discounts to people so that you'll attend the webinar, see what you want to see in addition to what might already be in our lessons. But you can now actually, like today, Sammy is here. You can interact with the guy that's running the company. He's the founder of Pilvia. So if you want to ask questions, you can ask directly to him, or at least it'll be available for you to, get what you need live if you have a question. We're also including our software bundle. And the software bundle is key because it's the same thing we've done in the past. It's over $16,000 worth of premium WordPress software, everything from Gravity Forms through all the accessories for WooCommerce. But it gives you a great toolkit, and literally for the price that we charge, pays for itself a million times over. The discounts, the courses, and the software are something that in the past we would have sold for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. That's how we roll, maybe thousands even. But I ask you, before I show you, many of you may know, but what is 1 hour of your time worth? Have you ever asked yourself that? I know I charge $300 per hour, $75 per quarter hour. So if I save an hour of time, that's equal to $300. At 1WDTV, we think our goal should be to reach, just like the Blue Books, as many people as possible. I should say at 1WD University then. In the past, we had higher priced products and training, and that limited who would be willing to do it. We're basically now making this a no-brainer to reach as many people as possible. Tens of thousands, hopefully soon hundreds of thousands, and maybe even more. It's just $19 a month. Come as you wish, stay as long as you want, leave when you want, to get all of our detailed courses on which is the best software and why, and how to use the software in detail, the key features. That's the biggest thing. It's not just reviewing the products or talking about them in a salesy way. Not at all. It's how to detail use them. Having webinars like today, where we feature the latest and the greatest and get you on board with the people who are making them and letting you get a discount if there's a cost to them from participating. And then also having the software bundle, which Robin just asked. The software bundle is a zip file that's updated every Friday of all the latest and greatest WooCommerce and other WordPress stuff that you'll need under most circumstances. So 1WDTV/join, or use the blue button under your offers here. I would like you to go and join now. Whether you've been with us in the past or whether you're brand new here today, join us, because I think you're going to be blown away by the amount of value that both saves you time and helps you make intelligent decisions, but also the esoteric value of you have access to all the best plugins that you need with updates. Now, more importantly, no stress, no complication, no variables. We just literally say, come as you wish, because we're not trying to get you to move up some value ladder. That's it. It's just $19 a month. We feel very deeply that after having grown an audience of over 17,000 people, 650 videos, I have over 120 live events on record, that 1WD University is going to allow us to reach tens or hundreds of thousands of people and provide a bridge, kind of like a Rosetta Stone, between what they need to know and the latest software that's out there. And it's going to help them solve the problem of not having enough time to acquire this information on their own. We do have one thing that a lot of people have taken advantage of, and it's not only useful, but it's also supportive. You may just want to say, you know what, I'm in, Spence. Let's go for this. I trust you. I've known you for years. I've seen hundreds of it. Just pay for a year. We give you a discount there. So instead of it being, 19 times 12, it's 19 times 10. You get 2 months for free if you just pay for the annual. And it's still $190. This, I guarantee, pays for itself the minute you buy it. Here's why. The software bundle alone is worth over $16,000 of all those WooCommerce plugins. Okay, and I don't think we have the list fully finished, but it's the same list that we've had before. Literally almost every one of the best WooCommerce accessory plugins, plus the Gravity Forms accessories, means that you can build really complex stuff for yourself without having to go and subscribe to all of that stuff as well. Okay, so even if you just buy this for that alone, the $190 for a year means you get a 12.5% discount. You're done for the year. You get all the value every time you come to a webinar. When we have new software vendors that have new stuff that otherwise would cost you X, you're going to have a discount here. That's going to be a real benefit as well. Okay, so let's finish up some Q&A. I do want to say thanks for, hanging with me through my spiel. But, it's important. One of the things that I'm known for is delivering value. If you need me, just email me. Use the little tool. Most every one of you who've met me before is surprised by that aspect. And the fact is that that's what I do best in my outward reach as well. I love discovering new things, new companies, new people. Sammy and his team have been amazing, and I'm so excited to help them because they deserve to win. They deserve your business. They deserve your attention. They already won me over. And I feel that it's my benefit on both sides. If I can introduce you to Sammy and his company, and you win by using their product, and they win because you're, a customer of theirs, I win. 1WD University is like a sort of collegiate environment, a liberal arts environment where we're providing a way for everybody with great ideas to come together. We win by you supporting us by just simply using the things that we're offering you to solve your pain point. Save you time, get you the details of how stuff works on the inside before you have to spend the effort to register or browse. Getting you the software bundle if you want to make something and put additional, expensive plugins in it that are open source. And more importantly, providing lots of other little side benefits. We haven't talked about it, but like our little mini courses. We have a mini course here for Pilvia. And that's one of the things too, we'll send you, if you register today or you're already registered, we'll send you the mini course that you'll have as a little reference as well. I think actually I've got it published right now, but that was for convenience. If you have questions, ask them away. I'm going to go through the rest of the list because we're at the end of our time, but I want to make sure everybody gets their questions answered. And also, please use the poll. Click on the poll below the video to answer the question of which course. It seems like Google Analytics is like blowing things away. Which course would you like us to release next? Google Analytics, big on the list. Okay, so I think I left off with Joey. Luke has answered many of these questions, but I signed up. I'll read them, a couple of them. I signed up for Pilvia. If you get a domain and use it with Pilvia, what about email on the domain name? So far, I haven't seen anything for that. We're going to have a course about using G Suite, Google Suite. I alluded to it in the webinar. You are literally missing a great opportunity if you don't use Google Suite for yourself or for your clients. And if your client balks, I have some things that we're going to talk about in that course that will help you convince a client to use it. Not the least of which is the number one thing. I think Google processes something like 1 billion emails a day. I'm totally making this number up, but it's got to be like 1 billion emails a day. They see spam coming before it ever hits your email. That's the point, because somebody else already got that email before you. If you use PHP mail, or your clients do, that squirrel mail only has an algorithm based upon what it sees or maybe what your own server sees. It's like a little fraction of the worldview. Google owns the whole internet practically. So just for that reason alone, I have yet to have any real bothersome or troublesome spam or phishing. Literally, maybe once every so often. And that's the huge benefit, just on saving time going through that kind of garbage. Mike asks, hey guys, are we recording for reference? Yes. This will be available for replay. It will have you click a link. If you've not otherwise registered, you guys obviously have. But I think for the replay, you'll click a single link to get back in. Easy. That's another benefit of being at 1WDTV. By being on our mailing list, it gives you one-click access to all of the stuff. You don't have to keep adding your email again and again. Why no more YouTube for live broadcast? Simple. Worlds evolve. YouTube is awesome. We do love it. But the whole interface with the clunkiness and it's just too much. We've been testing other options, and so far, really happy with the Webinar Ninja. And we're probably going to stick with this for a bit because it's giving us an all-in-one that's super simple, made by some guy, Omar, and we're happy to promote it as well because we'll actually be doing a course on it. It solves our pain point. We're going to be doing some modifications to this that'll make it a little more beautiful and more in line with what we like to show. But for functional purposes, this works out so far so good. Let us know or email me what your thoughts are if you felt like somehow we're missing the boat on that. I'm never going to be able to say this. Tarante, JS Singh, mail. Okay. I have a website hosted on GoDaddy. How do I migrate? Luke already answered. I would definitely recommend Managed WP, as he said. Managed WP is still our go-to tool for taking something outside of, let's say, one host, outside of Pilvia, and moving it to another host, like Pilvia. Gmail plugin, Luke had given you. The Gmail plugin I use is the SMTP Postman. Luke has published it there for everybody to see, so look at the comments under Sean's question. Alex asks, how would you suggest we manage clients and their billing in a Pilvia environment versus A2 with WHMCS? How much can we manage them and white label them as reseller? Here's my opinion. I have found that WHMCS I'm using less and less because it was a tool from the old world before we had ubiquitous ways to manage clients and invoicing. Right now, you could, for example, use a free tool, like the tool that used to be called curdb.com is now called something else, like the onion skin or something. I just type curdb.com. I'll type it for Luke here. curdb.com. What's it called now? They allow you for free to just invoice clients and get paid with Stripe and so forth. So what I'm suggesting is you can use a third-party service and not deal with WHMCS, because in practice, I still have dozens and dozens of clients on WHMCS. Very few of them do I bother getting paid or invoicing through WHMCS. It's annoying to them. So what I do is I set them up manually, and then I go ahead and bill them directly through Stripe or PayPal, and it just stays on recurring. And then when the day comes, if they ever want to stop, they just say, hey, Spence, turn me off, and I just turn off the billing. And then I go and I go into my Google spreadsheet and I just change, I highlight them from green to red. So don't get me wrong. If you're not going into the business of being a host, like a host company, I don't know if you need WHMCS anymore. Okay, it used to be really great just because it was a pain to set up billing. Now it's not a pain. Marcellus, does Pilvia have a web application firewall? That's a great question. Oh, Sammy has answered. Sammy answered, we have basic protection against most commonly used user attacks like XML-RPC and WP login brute force. Okay, thank you, Sammy, appreciate that. Joey's also asked, do they have gzip compression enabled? Yes, it's enabled, which is probably one of the reasons getting some good speed. Gzip enables your server to take advantage of zip resources and unpack them on the fly, so you can deliver them smaller than the browser unpacks them. What's my best process, asked Tanya, for porting my Bluehost sites to Pilvia? Well, oh, you already got it. Okay, good. So basically, use Manage WP. It would be a great way to do it. There is probably another way to do it, but I wouldn't advise it. You can get old school, and you can use phpMyAdmin and drag some files over somewhere or another, but like through FTP. But like, why? Like, why bother? In the old days when I started my freelance business, I used HostGator, and I dragged files from FTP, and then I had to take the database and move it via phpMyAdmin. I changed the variables. I was like, oh, why bother? Just use Manage WP. Marcellus, how many users can be logged into a single site simultaneously interacting with an e-learning plugin before the site crashes? That reminds me of a kid. We used to have that Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop question of Mr. Owl. How many licks does it take to finish a Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop? And he would go, 1, 2, crunch, eat it, 3. I don't know, Marcellus. Why don't you try it? Because I'm pretty sure Google Cloud Hosting and the scale of what they've got built there, you would really be doing some amazing business if you could crash it. This is not an individual little box anywhere. This is cloud hosting, so it's virtual hosting. I think it would be almost impossible for you to do anything that would crash it. So try it. I think that's the world that we live in, which is like no longer are we thinking like, oh, I've got a cell phone. How many minutes did I talk on the phone? Does anybody still have a phone that like counts minutes anymore? I mean, I don't even think anybody, unless you're in Europe, has the thing that counts text messages. In America, they've just finally given up. It's like unlimited text, unlimited talk. That's just the way it goes. Same here. Okay, Joey, again, Managed WP has some problems with Pilvia. They found it can jam their server. They actually blocked Managed WP after I crashed the server. Luke has already looked into it, and they're going to be working on it. And Sammy also says they're working on it. Okay, so I will stand in a paused, corrected moment. But I will tell you this much. Because I'm personal friends with Vlad and the team there, and they are super responsive. And by the way, many of you remember, when Managed WP was just a little, like a little seedling, Who is telling you about it? Right here. You're going to hear big things about Pilvia, I guarantee it, and I hope that they're going to work with us in the same way to continue keeping you guys informed and help grow their audience in the same way that I was really, I think, fortunate to help manage WP do, because they went from Vlad's idea to like bingity boom, and now they're part of the GoDaddy family, and I see good things here. Wistia, WP Engine, all those companies. I love being in a position to tell you the latest and the greatest stuff when it comes out. That's why I want you to join OneWD University, 19 bucks a month, $190 for the year. Help us out. We will take your input on what you want to hear and see and learn next, but you can almost be sure that it's going to be fun, exciting, informative, save you time, and ultimately help you build either your business idea, your business presence, or do something with your own clients. You guys, it's been a pleasure. I'm sorry I ran a little long. I will look forward to seeing you on OneWD University, but just to let you know, Luke and I have decided to hunker down for the last 2 weeks of the year. We're not going to do any webinars the last 2 weeks of December, because we're going to come out of the box strong with a couple more courses every Monday. So we'll have, let's see, Monday, we have at least 2 more courses and a mini course by January 1st. We're going to have a full schedule set up for our first attendees, or I should say our first guests, for starting the new year. And I want all of you guys to consider, if you've not joined yet, join us, try it out. Start using the ACF course, start using our mini course, start seeing the other stuff we sent you, because if you were excited about getting somewhere fast, we can help you do it. I appreciate you being here today. Have a wonderful weekend. Thanks to Luke for helping me out. Thanks for Sammy for joining us here. Pilvia.com. Talk to you soon.